We're back, Red.
We are back.
How are you feeling after today's workout?
Pretty beat up. Pretty beat up. I feel good though, but my body's definitely like
Describe
you
beat
lifted
up.
some heavy weights today.
What do you mean beat up?
I could just tell that my like posterior chain is very fatigued. I can tell that my central nervous system is pretty fatigued. Like my brain is going to be pretty tired tomorrow.
What would affect that?
Heavy deadlifting is going to affect your central nervous system more than anything you possibly could do. So what I mean by that is your brain sends signals to the muscles and it tells them to fire. And how quickly your brain sends those signals is going to be how much muscle action you're going to get. We call that rate coding. Rate coding is the rate at which your brain sends signals. So the faster you can do that, the faster you're going to get to a point where we call full tetanus, which is all the muscle fibers firing. And when that gets fatigued, like doing a max deadlift, it requires all of that. As fast as you possibly can rate code, that's what you need to do. So when you squat, you're starting from the top. When you bench, you're starting from the top and you're loading up that bottom position. Where a deadlift, you're starting from nothing. So it goes from zero rate coding to So
yeah, if I'm not mentally prepared for a deadlift, it's going to kill me.
Yeah, I got smacked.
It'll humble you.
I got smacked
yeah,
today.
What was up with that?
So hang on. Being fatigued, for your central nervous system, being fatigued is your brain's inability to continue to push signals at the fastest rate possible. So tomorrow, my brain's going to be pretty tired. I'm not going to be able to send signals to the muscles as fast as I did today. So I failed. This was sumo deadlift. I failed 585. And I was like, I got to a point where I could feel it just about to break, but I'd already made the decision in my mind of like, I'm not going to make this lift. So if I were to continue to push, if my brain were to send more signals to the muscles, the bar would have broken. So what's happening is my brain is getting more and more muscle fibers in my body to fire to produce more force to overcome the ground. And if I were to do that, the bar would have went up. But I'd already chosen to kind of shut things down before I started to feel it break. And then I just got like, okay, I need to get serious. I need to really battle this out. I kind of got a little bit hype, and then I came back and hit it for 3. So obviously I was strong enough to do it. The muscles were strong enough to do it.
Yeah.
So why didn't it happen? It's because the brain wasn't as involved as it needed to be.
Yeah, I did not expect today to go the way it did.
Yeah, you smashed it.
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting. I said 5. You said, how much you gonna do today? I said 5 plates.
Yeah, I was like, that's not nearly enough.
That's what I was having the same issues with my brain. Just was lacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you hit 600 first time.
I did 600. Ooh. 600 club.
Proud of you, my man. That's a big club to be in.
Yeah.
Separates you from a lot of people.
Yeah.
585 is a cool club. 6 plates.
It's a cool club. Yeah, 6
but
plates. But
600.
Actual 600, it felt really good. I knew it was happening.
Yeah.
When I pulled the 585, I was like, that
you smashed
flew
585.
up. I was like, damn,
So,
caught me off guard.
This is why powerlifting needs to be done a certain way for the maximum benefits. Is your brain gets tired, and you only have so many swings before your brain is fatigued. So that's why we do things exactly the way that we do things. Is okay, we can take this many attempts leading up to a max, and if you do too many, you're going to be too fatigued. And if you do not enough, your central nervous system is not going to be prepared enough. So we warm up to a max a very particular way to give us the best results. So if you go from 585, 6 plates, to 600, that's not ideal. You should be making a bigger jump, right? But now we know for next time, because we haven't really done this in a while.
Yeah.
So next time you'll be better. You could probably hit more than 600 next time by taking, maybe 565 or 570 and then jump into 605 or 610 or something like that, because you'll be less fatigued, but still a small enough jump to where your central nervous system is going to be ready to go.
It's just the fine tuning.
Yeah. Fine tuning is critically important.
Yeah.
If you're a competitor, you're a power lifter at a meet, you only get 3 chances. You get 3 attempts. So every single attempt is critically important. That's a lot of people, they underestimate the importance of their first and second attempts. Like, these are all critically important for your third attempt.
Or do you see people fumble on like for their first competition of powerlifting?
Generally speaking,
Yeah.
they don't like prepare themselves properly, right? So they lift too heavy, too close to the meet. So they're, like I said, it takes time. So a true deadlift max takes about 10 days to fully recover from a central
Damn,
nervous system
that's-
standpoint.
Yeah.
So if you're lifting heavy 4 days out, like what are you doing? Yeah, they're not lifting maxes, but still 90%, 85%, like it's going to fatigue you. So anyway, they do that, but then they go to a meet and then they're nervous, which is understandable. So they take way too much pre-workout and then they're yacked up on pre-workout, and then they don't eat food because they're nervous and they have no appetite from all the stimulants. They don't eat, and they just crash and burn midday.
Yeah. From my personal experience, that's what I'm glad I took it very serious when it came to pre-workout. And I had people there that knew what they were doing. So luckily they were like, yo, don't take a full scoop right now. This is not the time.
Yeah.
Like, because you have to wait so long in between your lifts.
Yeah.
And, not just the 3 attempts, but also waiting for your, bench, squat, and then deadlift. It goes squat, bench, deadlift. But when you get to deadlift, you feel like you have no more wind, and then you step up and you're like, oh,
yeah, you want to be
hyped.
building. You want to
Yeah.
be building as the day goes on, not bombing.
Because it's like I think a lot of people don't understand that haven't been to competition. It's long. It's like 6 to 8 hours. It's a long
There's another
day.
Red's an asshole moment where I'm like, the second, dude, when I'm coaching like serious competitors, the second you're done, it's you need to drink this protein shake, you need to eat this food immediately, like simple carbs,
Yeah.
and you need some protein in you. You don't really like protein is not as important, but if you're going to be there all day, you should have some whey protein. Like as soon as you're finished your third attempt, whey protein and some simple carbs, and then because that's going to digest pretty quickly, and then depending on how long it is between events, then you need to eat real food. You have to eat real food, but you time that before. So the whey protein and the carbs are after the first event,
Right.
and the timing of the meal is timed out before the second event. So you
Yeah.
kind of got to see how many people are there, what the pace is going, how long it took you to get through your flight, and you kind of make a pretty accurate guess.
Yeah.
And you eat food before to fuel not just the bench press, which you don't really need that much gas for the bench press, but like you're really setting up the deadlift later in the day by eating earlier.
So if people get up to the platform and they're struggling mentally, like you were explaining earlier, would you tell it's better to? I mean, I guess in a competition, no matter what, you got to go for it.
Yeah, you have to go for it.
Yeah.
But like if you're just mentally, like actually mentally fatigued, if your central nervous system is mentally fatigued because you didn't prepare for the meet the right
Yeah.
way, there's really nothing you can do.
There's not at all.
I mean, you could have
Yeah.
some like heroic effort, like that
Yeah.
does happen, but that's the only way you're going to overcome that is some like
It's just some
gun to your
self-hype,
head,
yeah.
your baby's trapped under the car, I need to, type of
Yeah.
situation. But like if you're
Go to a
not
very
there,
dark place.
if you're not there mentally,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen. But if you're not there mentally because the words that are happening in your mind are not favorable, you can turn that around. And that's a big
Yeah.
part of coaching, especially coaching
Yeah.
women. They love to have breakdowns.
It's a struggle.
They love to have breakdowns, post lift. And then you just got to talk. I mean, guys do too, but they're just less open about it.
Yeah.
Women will be just crying in a
Mine
corner
is just
somewhere.
like I'm stepping up to the bar. Like today when I did 600, I lined up to the bar and then the song was ending, and I'm like, oh my god. But I just pulled myself back together and said, just think about this lift. Think about one thing. It was pulling the slack. Drive the legs. That's it.
Yeah, and again,
And-
another Red's an asshole moment. What do I say all the time? Music's for the weak. Music's for the weak. And I say certain things repetitively, so it just lives in your mind. So in these scenarios where the music goes out, or it's the end of the song and it's your time to lift, if you're at a competition and something happens, like you have to lift when it's time to lift. You can't let out like external things dictate your performance. So if
Right.
you need music, you're mentally weak. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, if you really think that you're training with music in constantly day in, day out, that you're going to go to competition and just do amazing without music, it's probably not going to happen. You have to train without it.
Yeah, music certainly helps,
Yeah.
but I say music is for the weak all the time. So in these moments when you're like, oh, it's the end of the song, what are you going to hear in your subconscious? Music's for the weak. And then I don't need music. I prefer music. I certainly want music, but I don't need it because I'm not weak. I'm not mentally weak. Music isn't what lifts the bar. I lift the bar.
It takes a lot.
It does take a lot.
It takes a
takes
lot
out
to
of you.
not be mentally weak,
Yeah.
especially in powerlifting.
for sure.
When you're lining up to the bar.
Especially on deadlifts. More than anything is on deadlifts. Because if you're in a squat or a bench, by the time it gets really hard, you're already in it. You're already in the bottom.
Yeah.
Right? So you load it from the top and you come down. Where a deadlift, you don't load anything. You go from 0 to 100. So if you're not mentally pushing the gas pedal as hard as possible, it takes time to get to 100. So with a bench and a squat, that you eat up some of that time by the time it comes down to the descent. But deadlift, you don't. You're going 0 to 100. So you have to turn it all on as hard as possible, as quickly as possible. And that's just a choice. That's a choice. So the thing that I was talking about earlier, when I failed the 585, if I continue to push more and more and more and more and more, I would have broken that the first time. But I didn't. Because in my head, I was like, oh, I got to do this 3 times. I could barely get off the floor. My thumbs were in a weird position on the bar. It was just like things weren't right.
You blew me away when you started repping it out. I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. Like,
I knew that I could do it. I knew
Yeah.
that I could do it. I just needed to get serious.
Yeah.
And I needed to have better confidence in how I feel. You know, it's like if you're like playing beer pong or something and you shoot a ball, you know if it's going in before before it even leaves your hand. It's the same thing when you're on a deadlift. It's not perfect because it's heavy enough to where like you pretty much have to be perfect. And if it's not perfect, you can feel it right away, and then that takes away from your confidence. So if you're ever lifting super heavy weights, if you don't feel confident, take the step back, do whatever you got to do to get confident. We're talking about 1 rep max, like true 1 rep maxes, especially on deadlifts, because if you're not truly confident, you're just not going to make big lifts. You're not. So it's better to be like, fuck. Well, let me take a step back. Let me take a couple minutes. Let me redo my whole setup. I know that's annoying, but you have a way higher chance of making the lift and being like, well, I'm just going to send it anyway. I'm not confident about it. You just will not lift PR
from
type
experience,
deadlift weight.
it will not go well.
It will never go well.
You'll just technically break down, mentally break down, and your
Yeah,
brain's like no. As you're pulling, like I've experienced it. Obviously, I'm sure you have too. It's just your brain is saying no.
Yeah.
But you're trying. You're like no.
And you have to
I'm telling you,
override
brain, yes, and your brain's like, no, dude, you're no.
You have to override that.
Yeah.
So if everything feels right and you're pulling, and then that rate coding is starting to catch up to where it needs to be to produce force that's going to break the floor or whatever it is, break that sticking point. If you feel like you're in a good position, you feel confident, and then you can override that. Where if you know that you're not there, it's hard to override when you really subconsciously know it ain't going to happen. Or it's going to take like a monumental effort. And for me, I was trying to hit that 3 times. So if I was struggling, breaking the floor on the first rep, I was like, there's no way I'm going to get 3.
Yeah. What taught you that mental discipline?
Well, I mean, I understand the science of how it works, but the mental discipline of understanding how this particularly works in this lift is from just experience of pulling maxes for a million years. But just overall, just mental, I feel like my mental toughness is pretty good.
Yeah.
But how do you build that? You build that by doing really hard things and suffering.
Yeah.
The more you suffer and overcome that, the more things that you have in your tool belt. Like, I did that, so this thing isn't as hard. If I can do that, I can do this.
It's pretty much what we always explain to new people coming in. It's like, it goes back to grinding.
Your mind will be tested.
Yeah, your mind will be tested big time.
And one thing, if you fail, I can watch somebody, I can tell if they fail mentally or physically, because I've been watching people lift for every single day for 15 years.
Yeah.
I know what it looks like. So when people make mental weakness errors, I'm going to crack the whip on them infinity times out of infinity, because that's a choice. And sometimes if you just make a physical error, you're just not strong enough. That's okay. I'm not going to get on your case about that, because that's essentially
you can work on that.
My fault.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you need to be stronger. My job is to make you stronger, but I can't make you lift the weight. I can't make you push through these brutally hard sets that you need to overcome to get stronger. I can't do that for you. I can teach you the tools. I can give you the tools, but I can't do it for you. So if you're just like, dude, I was just trying my absolute best and it just wasn't there today. Yeah, it's totally understandable.
I get it.
That's essentially a coaching thing. Okay, if you're not, then the question is, why aren't you there today? Is it the program? Is everybody not here today? Yeah, coach, we're all okay. Then that's my bad. But that doesn't really happen.
No.
A lot of times it's more like, why aren't you here today? Oh, well, I got into a huge argument with my boyfriend or girlfriend. Oh, so your cortisol levels are through the roof and you're not recovered where you need to be. Yeah. Okay. Well,
No.
I'm not really going to get on your case about that, but like, you know, this happens all the time.
Yeah, you're
maybe,
trying to be a professional athlete, or
yeah,
you?
maybe ditch this loser.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, the reality is if you look at Olympians, most Olympians are single because relationships cause stress, and stress causes an increase in cortisol. An increase in cortisol causes a reduction in recovery.
It's interesting you say that. I've never really thought about it till now. You
Plus,
say that.
If you're in a relationship, if you're an Olympian and you're in a relationship, that relationship has to be second place. And for a relationship to flourish and actually work, it probably needs to be first place.
So, it makes sense. Like listening to C-Bum talk, you know, he's like, it just sounds like he doesn't want to do it for much longer because he wants a family. You know, he wants kids. He's like pretty much saying, I can't do that. Trying to be Mr. Olympia.
It needs to be all about you.
You're working every day, all day.
From the time you wake up till the time you go to sleep, and also while you're sleeping, is all about, okay, I'm going to work out as hard as I possibly can. I'm going to put the most amount of stress in my body that I possibly can that I can also recover from. That's what it's all about. Because I can, you know, just bash somebody into the ground, but they're not going to be able to recover from that. So I need to take them as far as I can down, knowing that they're going to recover. So if I have all this recovery stuff planned and you don't do it, the recovery is not matching the stress that I'm putting you through, that I can kind of force you through because I'm there in person. I can't like hold your hand through the rest of the day. So if you're not doing, you know, your recovery work, if you're not eating the right way, sleeping the right way, drinking enough water, doing the movement stuff, doing the, you know, our recovery days, if you're not doing that, the recovery is not going to match the stress, and you're eventually going to burn out. So when you burn out, it's just, okay, we just need to deload probably, but like, that's just the fast way to get things back on track. But like if we're deloading more than we need to, then that's more training that, you know, over the course of a year or a couple of years, the more times that you stop training when you don't need to, the less likely you are to be successful.
Yeah. That's like, we got 4 weeks left. It's like, can't deload right now.
So if your job is to, this is what people don't understand. Like if you're an athlete, it's not just go to the gym and train and that's it.
Yeah.
Your whole entire day is committed to your body. And the recovery is equally as important as the training.
It'll reflect your outcome big time.
Yeah. So if you have a family, what? You can tell this, you know, 2-year-old, hey, stop being a 2-year-old. It's causing me stress. You just, you just can't do that. You know what I mean? You need to have a wife who's like completely understanding. You know, if you're like a power lifter, it's a hard sell. If you're like, hey, listen, babe, I'm a professional football player. I'm going to make $20 million a year. Here's the deal. You got to take care of this kid until I'm done playing, because this is what's paying the bills.
Yeah.
You know, in the off season, I'll do my thing, but like, I'm not waking up in the middle of the night to take care of this kid because I got to sleep because my body just got hit by, you know, a 6'6", 275-pound lineman all day yesterday. I need to recover, or I'm going to get injured. If I get injured, these paychecks ain't coming, and these paychecks ain't coming anymore. We ain't living in this house anymore, and this lifestyle we have, we ain't doing that anymore. You're probably not going to want to be with me. You know what I mean? So this is your job. Yeah. Your job is this. My job is that. It has to be separated, which, you know.
That's why there's not a lot of people at the top.
Exactly.
In sports.
And if you have, you know, in powerlifting, you're not making $20 million paychecks.
Yeah.
So it's a hard sell. Hey, wife, you need to be completely take care of this child while I just go lift weights with my friends.
Yeah. I mean,
even if you're the best in the world, it requires the same amount of work, but the money is just not there to really justify that.
You're most likely going to be younger anyways. So
yeah,
you shouldn't.
But you can get stronger as you get older. Like you can be in your mid 30s and still even your later 30s and be still continuing to get stronger. You can get stronger even in your 40s, but like it's just, you know, you can kind of peak on strength, but it's kind of hard to stay in the game for that long.
I've seen
be
some
young,
strong guys
for sure.
In their 30s, 40s, 50s. Saw some dude probably in his 60s doing a reverse bench press at a competition. Don't know what that was about, but
that's how they used to do it.
Yeah, old school.
Yeah.
How would you even hold that in your hands? Like, would you?
Yeah, the same way. It's actually kind of nice. I just don't really have the mobility to do it anymore, but yeah, it's kind of nice. You can move some weight that way.
How much you think you could press reverse grip?
If I had the mobility, probably a lot.
More than me?
Definitely more than me. I could reverse grip more than you could regular grip, for sure.
No.
All right, we'll test it out. We'll test it out on Wednesday.
It's going down.
I'll just do like 20 minutes of like wrist and elbow mobility, and I guarantee I could at least push 300.
You're like, oh, honey,
315.
can you please roll out my wrist? It hurts so bad.
Yeah, my wrists are
afterwards.
Yeah, my wrists are going to be inflamed.
Yeah,
to
that
say
would
the
not be
least.
good.
So, but if my wrists are inflamed, you know what I'll do? I'll take some Fortify by Legion.
Oh, what does Fortify do?
It's like joint support.
Yeah?
Reduces joint discomfort, boosts joint health and function. It's actually legit. Take it every day.
You've been taking that?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I also don't like destroy my joints. If your joints are like crazy inflamed because you did something stupid like reverse grip 315,
Yeah, I mean,
it's not gonna
yeah.
fix the problem. It'll help, but it's not gonna.
I haven't had joint issues in a long time since lifting with you. I did back before I started lifting with you, and it was mostly just because my bench technique was garbage and always had tennis elbow, just jacked up all the time.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, we also take care of we actually do like specific workouts to take care of our joints that most
Yeah.
people don't want to do, which are also in all of my programs, redfireperformance.com. Take care of your joints, train your joints, and they'll take care of you.
No, that is a good point. There's a lot of people that just do not take recovery seriously, and it's not just
No
about,
one does.
It's not just about stretching. Everybody says, "Did you stretch?
No, it's not stretching.
Did you
it's,
stretch?"
it's strength training.
Yeah,
It's strength training. It's more strength training. It's just training the stabilizers,
Yeah.
essentially, of the joints. Like how often do you do, specific rotator cuff exercises for your shoulders? How often do you do hip stabilizer exercises and knee exercises?
is that why when you walk into like a commercial gym and then you get your little free pass with the personal trainer, they have you do that type of stuff just to show that that's your weaknesses, because most people don't do them.
I don't know, but they
Yeah.
definitely do that. They
Yeah,
definitely
I've seen-
dude, that whole system is like
To
it's
make
so,
you look terrible.
Yeah, it's so fucked up. Like
Yeah.
that's so. When I was working at Crunch, they would try to get me to do that. I'm just like, I don't need to like make people feel insecure
Yeah.
to sell them. I'm an actual expert, and I shouldn't be working here in the first place. So I'm just gonna like
That-
be like, hey, what are your goals? Oh, these are my goals. Okay, here's the real path to those, and here's how I can help you. Do you want it or no?
So you wouldn't take people through a workout when you worked at Crunch?
No, I would, but I would be more like instruction versus
Yeah.
like, let me kick your ass and make you feel how out of shape you are, so you feel
Yeah.
bad about yourself, and then buy this. I'd be like, hey, listen, look what I could teach you in 15 minutes. Imagine if we work together 3 times a week. Like you're obviously going to get better, which is the truth.
Let's say you got a 63-year-old female, has some lower back issues, nothing serious though, and she comes in, walking in.
Guaranteed, I could fix her up. Like I would just.
What would be the process for that?
Well, the process is I would figure out this particular person.
Yeah.
Right. So we're talking about hypotheticals right now. I don't, that's what good coaching is all about. It's not about generalized hypotheticals. It's about what is specific to this person. So I would take her through a couple different exercises at like super low intensity to see like what she can and can't do. And then I'd be like, all right, does this hurt? Is that like, what hurts? What makes your back hurt? What particular movements? I usually have people do spine cars. And spine car is going to take your spine through a full range of motion. So if like, oh, that hurts, then I know exactly where
Yeah.
the pain is coming from. But I'm just going to strengthen your back. I'm going to strengthen your hips. I'm going to make you do basic exercises that make your body work together as one unit.
That's why you crushed it though. That's why you did really well.
Yeah, and I was
Yeah.
personable.
Yeah.
I would talk. I know how to talk to people.
It's insane to me how many, like, they're so young. All these personal trainers.
Yeah,
especially
they're young.
Crunch. It's like, this girl's like, ha ha ha, I'm 18. It's like, that's the last thing I would say to someone I'm trying to sell to. I'm
Yeah.
18. You're talking to a 50-year-old guy.
Yeah,
You're
he's
not
not gonna-
selling to him.
You just don't have the skills.
Yeah,
and what a lot of these people do is they want to flex their knowledge.
PTA Global.
They want to be like, oh, well, they want to use like fancy words because
Yeah.
they're insecure about their actual knowledge. So
Yeah.
they don't speak to them like a normal person. I would never do that. Like, I don't give it like, I mean, if someone asks me a specific question, I'll just explain it. But I just explain things in a way that people understand. So most people, more than 50% of people in the United States read at a 5th grade level or lower. So why am I going to be like, oh,
Yeah.
see, that's because your hip's going to internal rotation and abduction, which is making your knee, like, why would I say that? I was like, yeah, it's because your hip's fucked up.
Just get straight to the point.
Here's how we fix
Yeah.
it. And like, oh yeah, I understand those words.
Yeah.
So do this. Does that hurt when you do that? No, it doesn't. All right, fantastic. We're just going to stick to that motor pattern for a while until you're good. That makes sense.
Most people would
Yeah,
be
that
like-
makes sense.
You think someone's going to take a mental note and remember that when they get home? They're going to be like, what did he say again? I don't remember what he talked about. Like,
Yeah.
It's
They don't
just-
care. They don't know what you're talking about or care.
here it is. how can you make me better?
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly.
That's it.
That's all I care about.
That's what would bother me about working in these commercial gyms, being a personal trainer. I was like, I can't do the script. I'm sure it works, but I just don't like it.
The things that, it works if you have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah.
It works better than not having a script. But what works, like they do have some things in there, like the general points, I would still try to hit those because you are doing sales essentially. So you have to be like, okay, what are the objections this person's going to have? But for me, I wouldn't even really set things up earlier because what a lot of them do is like, I'm going to ask these questions earlier, get their answers, and then when I sell to them later and they come up with some bullshit, I'm going to be like, oh, well, you said this earlier, right? I'll just be like, I used to sell cars, and what I learned from that is like, you need to get to the real reason why someone is saying no. And the real reason is always money. There's no other reason than money.
Yeah.
If I was like, if I gave this for free, would you take it? Like, oh, yeah. Okay, so that's money. It's money.
Yeah,
so then you have to make the value of what you're selling more valuable than the cost of it.
Yeah.
So I would just I'll have to go talk to my wife and be like, what do you need to talk to her? What do you need to talk to her? I told her, first I'd be like, yeah, I totally understand. Of course you need to talk to the wife, but like, what do you need to talk to her about? You don't need, I just need some more time. You don't need time. You need information.
You're here.
Yeah.
You are here right now.
Yeah. You don't need,
yeah.
You don't need time. You need information. I'm the one with the information.
Yeah.
So let me help you walk through it. If you don't want it, that's totally fine. Like I wouldn't pressure people, but I would just, more times than not, people just don't know what they're saying yes or no to.
No.
But yeah, obviously you got to talk to the wife. It's a big investment, but like, let's see if there's something you really even want first. And that way you can save the argument when you get home, right?
Of course.
And then you always finish up with something like that, right?
Cha-ching.
Make them answer the question. There are certainly some sales tactics, but here's the thing. I didn't care about like being a little bit pushy with the sales sometimes because I know that my training is like, listen, I want to be like, listen, straight up, like I'm an expert. You're not going to get better quality any other commercial gym.
Yeah.
You're just not.
No.
I worked with professional athletes the last 15 years. I'm pretty sure I can.
So whoever turned red down, you're missing out.
Yeah, some people did. Most people didn't though. Dude, my sales, like my closing rate was 100% for like 8 months.
You probably pissed off so many trainers.
Yeah, they did not like me there because it's so weird. Like the management, like Mike, he did not like me. It's like, bro, I'm putting money directly into your pocket. You're just upset that I'm better than you.
Don't even get me started on Mike, dude.
Oh yeah, don't get me started. Don't get me started just on crunch in general. But that's the story though. Like if you're better, you know, if you ever read a book called The 48 Laws of Power, first law of power, law 1, never outshine the master. Basically, never be better than the people who are above you in the power hierarchy because their egos
never ends up good for you.
It doesn't. Once in a while it does, but it takes a really good leader.
Yeah.
So a really good leader is going to be like, oh, snap, this guy's going to make me money. Let me just sit back and let him make me money. I'll just sit back and shut the fuck up.
That would be the logical answer to that.
Yeah, but it's not.
But most times, everybody's ego just eats them alive. So the ego's too big to let that go and be like, yeah, I should let them, flourish and be successful. Nope, I'm just want to cut them off and be like, you can't do this and you can't do that.
Because it makes me feel bad about myself.
Like, what? What world do we live in?
I got special permission from like the district managers to charge more than the prices you're allowed to charge at that crunch. So I was charging and making more than Mike, the manager.
Oh, that is...
And the people loved me. My clients loved me because I did a good job. And it was like...
as you should.
Super cool with them.
But yeah, that's awesome. You should have been charging a premium. You deserve that for sure. You worked there for a little while. And I remember seeing you there just like... This fucking big ass Viking motherfucker. Like I could tell when you walk into a place like that, you just know someone knows their shit. I could just see that. So that's why when you asked me to work out for the team, I'm like, fuck yeah, this guy seems super legit. And I feel like a lot of people, are not legit. They just don't know how to properly structure a workout.
Yeah, I mean that's structuring a workout is like the basics of success. If you want long-term results, so if you want long-term results, you have to think long-term. So a lot of people, if you're going into the gym and you don't have a plan before you go there, you're not doing it right. Period. Stop that and go get a program. You don't have to get one of my programs. You can get ones from Google for free. It'll be better than what you're doing, guaranteed. But you need a program that's going to give you a long-term approach to your goals because that's how it works, right? Imagine me picking up a guitar and being like, you know what? I want to play a Jimi Hendrix song. And I'm just like, what am I going to do today? I don't know. Let me just figure it out. You're never going to figure it out.
Yeah. Everybody's like, I wish I could lift 600 pounds. I wish I could bench 400 pounds. I wish I could do that. I wish I could. How do you think those people got there?
Yeah.
They didn't just go into the gym and just started lifting with nothing to back that up.
Yeah, it's
They
what do
always
I
had a plan.
what do I need to do to
Yeah.
get there, not what do I want to do. So here's how I would structure a workout. I mean, there's lots of different ways to do it, but this is kind of the general way to do it that most people should be doing. Again, there's advanced techniques and things like that that probably don't apply to you. But you want to go in and you want to start with your hardest movements. So the hardest and heaviest movements are going to be things like your squats, deadlifts, bench press, overhead press, right? So if you're going into a workout and you're starting with leg press and then going to deadlifts and then the squats, like that's not the right order. Yeah. So
Try
start
again.
with, I mean, you can, I'm not saying you can't, you're just not going to get as much out of the squats and deadlifts.
Yeah, you're
as you should.
sacrificing. You're sacrificing some gains by doing
Big
that.
time, right?
Yeah.
So you need to start with full body movements. So a squat and a deadlift, let's say, it's not just legs. It's core, it's upper back, it's lats. It's a full body movement. So you need the most amount of energy to do something like a squat. And you do this heavy and hard to at or near failure. So for most people, if you don't have a spotter or something like that, I would stick to near failure. So if you could do 10 and you just absolutely could not do 11, no matter how hard you tried, maybe do 9, right? And so I would start with that. Squats, pick 2 main movements. And then you do accessories. So accessories are smaller movements that fill in the gaps of your weaknesses of the main movements. So again, let's say squats. So if you say, oh, I can only do 10. Okay, why can't you do 11? Well, I'm just not strong enough. Well, what's not strong enough? Is it your glutes? Is it your quads? Is it your hamstrings? Is it your core? Is it like what is not strong enough? And they say, okay, well, it's actually my glutes. Okay, so maybe your main movement is squats and your secondary movement is like more glute focused, hard movement. So something like deadlifts, RDLs, something that's really, really hard. Those are really barbell RDLs. These are hard movements, but something that's going to be still full body, but has more of a slight focus towards your particular weaknesses. So those are your 2 mains. And the next one's going to be, okay, another glute focused accessory, but it's smaller. So maybe you do split squats, maybe you do hip thrusts, maybe you do whatever. The list goes on. You can do like deep hack squats, something like that. But like a hack squat's just not as hard as a regular squat. Pendulum squat. This is where you put in the leg press, something like that. So you're still building the legs. So the first accessory should be the hardest accessory, but not as hard as a main movement. So squats and deadlifts require a ton of core strength, lats, upper back, where hack squats and leg presses just don't. It's just legs. So you could do a really hard accessory first that still has a little bit of a glute focus, and then you go into your just single joint type movements. So maybe pick 1 or 2, depending on the intensity of the workout and the volume of the workout. You pick 1 or 2 movements that say, okay, I'm going to do, if your goal is just to build your glutes, you should be focusing on strength as well.
Yeah.
So you should be trying to build strength in all these movements. And typically, again, there's lots of different ways to do it, but typically the volume is going to get higher as the workout goes on. So if I'm going to squat, maybe I'll do heavy sets of, 5 to 8. And then if I'm going to do deadlifts, maybe similar, 8 to 12. And then my first accessory, maybe same thing, 8 to 12. And then my second and third accessories, maybe I'm in the 10 to 15, 12 to 20 type range. Because it takes less central nervous system to do that. Where if it's like, oh, I'm going to do heavy triples on hip thrusts after doing squats and like your brain's not going to be there.
Yeah.
So you can do it, but you're not going to get as much out of it. Or you can do it and your brain's going to be completely blown out. So the next couple workouts for the next day, the next day, and the next day are going to be shit, and it's not worth it. Still make it hard. And that's where you put in these intensity multipliers, like adding in pauses and things like that, where you can make lighter weights feel harder on the muscle. And it's just a little bit easier to recover from the joints and central nervous system, all that stuff. Yeah. That's a general structure. So again, these numbers that I made up, like for us, we don't do squats 5 to 8. We do 1 rep maxes. We do that once a week though.
Yeah, every week.
But we know what we're doing. And so we might do a 1 rep max movement, and then we might do a heavy triple or heavy 3 to 5 reps for a secondary movement, and then we go into your 8 to 12 plus. or maybe 15s. You know, like the volume should be higher up. The further you get into the workout, the more reps you should do, because the weights are lighter. It's just easier to recover from.
Yeah. So if
but you're not going to get as much out of it.
Yeah. So if you're walking into the gym and you don't know what you're going to be doing, you're better off just getting a program.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't. How are you going to structure that not knowing anything about everything you just said?
Exactly.
The average person just doesn't understand any of that.
And you shouldn't understand that.
Right,
Like, this is like what you go to school for. So I have advanced degrees to figure all this stuff out. So at revupperformance.com. But on a serious note, you don't need to get my programs. They're just awesome and they work. But there's millions of programs out there. There's free programs. Just getting on some sort of structured workout is going to help, because the person that structured it has all this stuff in mind. Maybe not as much, you know, depending on if it's free, depending on who writes it, the skill level of the programmer, whatever. But like, there's at least some sort of structure to even a free program that you can get on Google. That's just how it goes. And if you're just winging it day by day, so you need to have that on Monday. You need to have every single day of the week needs to work together with the days previous and the days that are coming up. And that's what a real program is. It's like kind of living and breathing thing that you can make slight adjustments to based on a number of different things. But really, you have to take into consideration what you did days previous and what you're doing in days coming up. Because you can't just lift 1 rep maxes every single day. You can. But
that'd be rough.
I wouldn't recommend that. But you can. I've had people do that before.
Yeah.
You know, there's like Russian squat cycles and things where you can max every day, 5 days a week for 6 weeks, and your maxes will go up. But it doesn't go up every day. It fucking waves like this.
By percentage?
Nah, you just lift a max, 1 rep max every day.
Every day.
Oh, sometimes. So there's
what's the rest of the workout?
I mean, you can do some small accessories and things like that, but not a lot. But if you get, let's say my max squat is 100 pounds, and I do that Monday, I hit 100 pounds. When I come in Tuesday and do it again, like, I'm not hitting 100 pounds. I might hit 70. I might hit 75. Then the next day I come in, I'm a little, like, your body's going to self-regulate how much it can do that day no matter what. But that takes really advanced knowing what you're doing. Because if you don't do it the right way, you're going to get hurt.
Now, what would be the benefit of that?
I mean, a lot of Olympic lifters, it's more of an Olympic lifting thing. A lot of Olympic lifters, they squat or they clean and jerk and snatch most days.
Yeah, I remember going to Pinellas Barbell and seeing that a lot. It's like same people in there every day doing the same thing. I'm like,
yeah, they're doing something totally different. But the Bulgarians, so this was like a Bulgarian weightlifting program that the Bulgarians crushed it. They were one of the best weightlifting teams ever back in the 80s, and they would max every single day. That's all they would do. So they would max sometimes up to 4 times per day, different movements, obviously, but they would always max. So the people that, if you have if you have really great technique, it kind of works. But if you don't, you like the burnout rate from the Bulgarians, like the people that made it out the other side won hella gold medals. But there's a pile of dead bodies behind every gym in Bulgaria.
Just think about having to wake up and be like, oh, I get some max again.
I mean, that's essentially what we do.
Yeah.
I mean, the people hate on my programs all the time, but we max pretty much everything. So we do 1 rep maxes once a week for lower body, once a week for upper body. But we do maxes for speed. We just max different things. We max on our dynamic days. It should be a max speed.
You definitely can adapt to that. Yeah.
The forces, you adapt to it. Yeah. The forces are still high, so you can recover faster from speed work, even though the forces are higher. But you need way more volume. So we'll do 8 sets of 3, and all the percentages and all this stuff is I didn't figure this stuff out. It was figured out by the smartest coaches ever lived in history on how many reps you can do with different percentages and things like that. And then what do? We do accessory work where we do maxes on that too. So there's just different types of things that we max. And people are like, oh, you can't take everything to failure. It's like, well, you kind of can. You kind of can. If you do it the right way, you can.
How far do you want to take it?
And when the farther you push things, the more intense you push things, whether it's a set of 1, a set of 5, a set of 20, that's going to give you the fastest results.
Yeah.
But most people, they just don't know how to put things together to be able to continually do that day after day after day after day.
That's why I love putting people through our training. It's always so entertaining.
Yeah, especially high-level lifters.
Yeah, because they all say the same thing. They're like, oh, I love coming in and hitting a workout with you guys.
Yeah, but I love getting well, I don't love it. Actually, I kind of hate this, but I hate it because I want to educate people, but sometimes people, they just have no idea. They're so far away from the truth of what it takes to actually get better. So I got a comment today. It was like, I did a tricep push down video. And so, I felt bad because they're like they weren't being dicks about it, but they were just like, oh, like something like, oh, I heard like you should bend your torso a little bit more. And like, I'm really trying to get like, you know, this horseshoe tricep. And it's like, is that what I should be doing? It's like, all right, do you really think that bending forward 3 inches is the reason that you don't have jack triceps? On a serious note, think about it. You think that's the reason? It's not the reason. I'm telling you right now. Spoiler alert, it's not the reason. Yeah. You don't lift hard enough. You just simply do not lift hard enough. You should be at a point where you're just like, you are battling. I don't know if I can even finish this rep. And then you just, God, maybe you don't. Maybe you fail the rep. That's failure. Maybe you do make the rep and then you're done anyway. But that's how you grow. Yeah. Now, how do you do that in a way that you don't hurt yourself? Is you can't push through form breakdown. So if I'm doing this and my elbow kicks out, my shoulder, you know, internally rotates, or it's all rounded forward, you don't want to push through that. That's obviously not smart. But if you're just going, oh, yeah, that was good. Oh, but dude, I leaned my chest forward 3 inches. Yeah. Why don't my triceps jack? So because you're lifting at 60% of your intensity.
Until fail is what it means is until actual fail, not until you mentally fail, so you actually physically fail the lift.
Yeah. So the reps,
or the movement, whatever you're doing.
The number of reps doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you do a set of 6 or a set of 20, your muscles will grow. It doesn't the same.
I can't tell you how many times how many reps did you do? I was like, dude, I don't even know.
You just go.
But I went until I literally could not go anymore. And I tell you that all the time. You're like, how many do you think you're going to do here? I said, I'm going to do as many as I can.
Yeah.
And I will.
I'm going to go until I can't, because that's what makes you grow. I'm going until I can't. That's what makes you grow. So the reason that people say, 6 to 12 is kind of the good rep range to grow in size and strength too, is because at 20 or 30 reps, people typically give up mentally before they give up physically. Yeah. That's why. But some people are just a menace, and they can do true 20 rep maxes. You will get jacked to the max. If you do true 20 rep maxes, there's a whole squat program called super squats. You do 20 rep maxes 3 times a week.
Dude, that's hard.
That is one of the most
hard. Dude, that's really
hard.
One
of the most brutal things ever. Like, dude, my heart rate has never pounded out of my chest so hard.
You did it?
I didn't do the whole program, but I've done 20 rep maxes. Like,
we should look into that.
I don't want to look into that.
Why not?
Because it sucks.
Are you scared?
No, I'm not scared, but I don't want to squat 3 times a week.
Scared.
And also, like,
Sounds like you're a little scared.
No, the benefits don't outweigh the rewards.
Why not?
Because we'd have to take away, if we're adding something in somewhere, we have to take away something else from somewhere else. So if we just wanted to focus on squats, I would rather lift heavy 3 times a week than do 20 rep maxes. How heavy would you be doing that? 20 rep max. How much you doing? Right now, I could probably do 405 for 20.
405 for 20?
Yeah.
I
could probably do 405 for 20.
But
what you're supposed to do is every single time you squat, you add 5 pounds. So you do that for 3 times a week for 6 weeks.
Do you kind of leave yourself some room, or you do a true 20?
Well, you're not going to do a true 20 the first time you do it. How do you know?
Right. Well, you could go off percentage. It's not going to be very accurate. But
but still. Yeah. You can go off percentages, but percentages are not super accurate all the time. They're just more guesses, because some people have high like take a bodybuilder. A bodybuilder would probably have a higher 20 rep max than a power lifter who's typically used to only doing 1 rep maxes. Even though a power lifter could lift way more weight, they don't have the conditioning to do that. Now, if a power lifter worked in their conditioning, they would beat the bodybuilder, but bodybuilders do 20s all the time. Maybe not in squats, but hack squats and things like that. They're at least closer to that style of training.
Yeah, I'll give it to him. It's tough.
But yeah, it's really like
so many reps.
It's just that, like the super squats, it just mentally sucks.
That sounds pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's conditioning big time. It sucks. But your legs will be monstrous. But really, you're not getting necessarily stronger. You're just building a bigger base.
Yeah.
To get stronger, you have to lift heavy.
Yeah.
You don't like this dude. He was a sprinter that I talked to a long time ago. Like, he was on Team USA, and he just said, you don't run faster by running slow. So if you're a football player, a baseball player, any sort of sport where you're just doing short sprints, like obviously track, there's no need to ever run a mile, or even a half mile, or even a quarter mile. Like, why? If your job, like baseball, what do they run? 20 yards?
Yeah.
Why would you run a mile? It makes no sense. So it's the same thing. Maybe if you want to just build your conditioning, but like Why? That's
It's
not
just
what
not
baseball is.
necessary
Baseball is a
for-
power
for
sport.
that sport. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you build up 20 rep max squats, it'll build the foundation that you can build up from there, but you're not necessarily going to build 1 rep maxes. So if I was going to do like a high rep, high volume squat program, I'd rather do some more of like more of a Russian cycle that works with 80% of your max and then works up to 85, 90, 95, then 100%.
Yeah, I
over
remember
6 weeks.
that's what you had me on when I was traveling. It works amazing. It works really well.
Yeah, well, we were doing something different. We were doing kind of like a different type of conjugate.
Oh,
We're
okay.
still doing maxes,
Yeah.
but it was like percentage maxes
Mhm.
where like a Russian, like just one Russian cycle, you do like 6 sets of 2 at 80%. And then the next time you come in, it's 6 sets of 3.
So
And
it's
the
a
next time
set.
you-
It's a set number at a percentage.
Yeah, 6
Yeah.
by 2, 6
Okay.
by
I
3, 6
gotcha.
by 2, 6 by 4, 6 by 2,
Yeah.
6 by 5. So the 6 by 2s, like you're tired, but if you can do 6 by 5 at 80%, 6 by 2 2 days later is not that difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not easy because you're tired, but it's not hard because it's super heavy. But then, like, one of the hardest sets I've ever done in my life is 5 by 5 at 85% of your max. That is like devastating.
Oh,
and
God.
4 by 4 at 90%. Those are the two. I also did a 6 by 6 at 80% with a pause. Those 3 sets or those 3 pieces are some of the hardest squat sets I've ever
That's just
done
like
in my entire life.
really pushing it out. That's
Yeah, but there's just no need to do that much volume
yeah. Yeah, if there's not a need, then why? Like other than
to say you did it.
yeah, other than be like I did a 6 by 6 at this percent.
There's no need to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm saying that the better your technique is, the more that makes sense. But if your technique isn't on point, that's just like an abusive amount of volume, and you're
Yeah.
gonna get hurt.
Which if you're not a high level athlete, most likely your technique isn't exactly the greatest, but
It's not anywhere. It's not like it's not the greatest. It's not anywhere near the greatest.
yeah.
So those things like Smolov, like I never ever recommend Smolov to people. The
What is
burnout.
that?
Smolov is like one of the most brutal Russian squat cycles. Probably the most brutal. That's at least popular anyway. It's just like
I never
percentages.
heard of that.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
percentages are just out of this world. But you will get stronger if you survive. But like as a super high burnout rate because the volume is just insane.
How would you compare your programs to that?
The opposite.
Like polar opposite?
Yeah. So back
Yeah.
in the day, it all started from weightlifting. So the Bulgarians were doing 1 rep maxes all day, every day. And then the Russians were like, let's do the opposite. Let's do crazy volume. And then the Russians were really good too. Like both systems work. But they were like, yeah, these Bulgarians are killing it. But like the too many people are getting killed. So they went the opposite, went tons of volume. And then conjugate is kind of like, well, what works better? Well, scientifically, doing maxes makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
But we can't do more maxes because you can't recover from that.
That's why you add the bands, the chains, the deficits. Yeah.
So
All
the
that.
percentages that we do on the dynamic days come more from the Russian style of training.
Okay.
So it's really 75 to
That's
85%
Yeah.
when you add the bands in. So it's 50%. It's a pendulum wave of 50, 55, and 60%. Then you add bands that are 25 to 30% band tension additional. So it works out to be 75 to 85%.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Russians figured out. So there's a chart called Prilepin's chart. And A.S. Prilepin was a Soviet weightlifting coach who basically just completely dominated and destroyed everybody. They had records in every single weight class, and they just destroyed everybody at the Olympics. They won every single gold medal. And he came up with this chart that said, okay, here's the number of reps, here's the number of sets and the number of reps that you can do at each percentage of your max and still come back and do it again. So, I mean, this was back in like the 70s, and it still holds true today. So a lot of people,
Damn.
it's like people that say like, oh, it's not like the best way to do it. It's like, I mean, kinda is.
It's really insane because you don't have half the technology and the bars and a lot of things that they didn't have back in the day.
Yeah, but what
still
they did
works
have back
now.
in the day is the Soviets did it the best
Yeah.
because their top coaches were also their top scientists. Where now the scientists and the coaches are totally separate,
So
at least in
it's
the
like a
United
scientific
States.
standpoint.
Yeah, I was in grad school and I wanted to get my PhD. After my first semester, I was like, ain't no way. So I just finished my master's. I was like, these people don't know anything. They don't know anything about the real world.
Yeah.
But back in the Soviet days, they did. Their scientists were their coaches. So they had these biomechanics professors that were coaching the top teams. So they put out, like, the shit they put out was just awesome. But it's not like mainstream, because think about it, like, I mean, it's definitely mainstream, but still, like, a lot of things come from those ideas. But like, where are you going to go find like a book, like a Soviet textbook? You're not
here.
So it's in training manuals, and people would read the training manuals, and then American coaches would write about it. And that's where Louis Simmons from Westside Barbell, that's his whole system. He didn't invent conjugate. He just made it better. The Soviets invented conjugate. He just made it better, where he was like, hey, this is a better way to do it. Let's use all these specialty bars, and let's use bands, and let's start adding in more of a velocity and power component to it. And he revolutionized it, but it wasn't his original idea.
What was his background?
Laying bricks.
Really?
Yeah, he was like, started laying bricks, and he was like 12. He went to the military, dropped out of high school. He's not like an educated guy, but he is educated. He did all his own education. So like, he's read all the textbooks that all the professors have read, but he just chose to do that himself. But he also has read all the manuals and all the things from other coaches, because he's legit, or was legit. So he would travel to Russia and the Soviet Union, work with these coaches and work with the top coaches in the world, and be like, yo, give me any sort of literature that you have. He would read that, but he'd also read physics textbooks and math textbooks and biology and chemistry and all that stuff. He just did it himself. But that's why people hate that guy, or that's one of the reasons, because you get some old guy with fucking battle axes tattooed across his chest, all tatted up, like, I don't give a fuck about nothing, motherfucker. And it's like all these professors are like, oh, I've been told my whole entire life I'm the best of the best of the best. It's like, no, you're not. You're a fucking pussy, and I'm smarter than you. And he was.
And I can outlift you too.
And I can outlift you. I'm just better at everything.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing this out of passion. I don't need a piece of paper to tell me that I'm smart. And he ran all of his own experiments. They would keep statistics. Like, they did a good job at Westside. And that's why their shit works, is because it has to work. Because they're coaches that are like, hey, these are athletes that actually compete in the real world. We don't care about getting published and getting our dicks sucked by society. We want to win world championships. So the methods that we're using have to actually work in the real world. So it's in our best interest to start taking data and statistics and figuring this stuff out better, not because we want to, get an HJ for getting a first author on a published paper. They don't care about that. They want to win world championships, which they did for 30 years straight.
Did they have like separate coaches, or is it just they have the program up and everybody that went there did that program?
So they would, I mean, I guess there's probably different ways of doing things over the years, but pretty much they kind of ran things the way that I run things, and where I run things the way they run things, I guess a better way to say it. But, like when, we're training Bree to win a world championship, we're all doing Bree's program.
It's catered to
Bree.
To Bree, to the athlete.
And everyone else, you're doing her program.
Because whatever they need to work on.
Yeah, I mean, I would do like minor adjustments. Like,
Right.
hey, you're doing belt squats. You need to do it with a pause.
Yeah.
You need, I'd make minor adjustments. But the reality is, like, we're doing Bree's program. Well, I want to do my own program. Cool. Then be as good as her.
Yeah.
Well, you're not. So, but you're going to get better. Because again, I'm making the adjustments. You're going to get better on her program. Because again, like we're talking about, if you lean forward 3 inches on a tricep extension, doesn't fucking matter.
It's not your problem.
It's the intensity.
It's not your problem.
It's the intensity of your training. So if you're doing Bree's program and she's on a higher level than you, and you're trained with the same intensity as her, you're going to get better. And I'll start to tailor things. I'll start to tailor things on the day-to-day towards you, but I'm not going to sit down and write it all out until you can show that you're at least going to train at the right intensity, take your diet serious, do all the things that are more important for results than the minor nuances of movement.
Yeah, and how many people did that?
The maxes don't really matter that much. They do, but like person to person, it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
It's the accessories that matter more person to person. And it's easier to be like, okay, we're going to do hack squats and you're going to do you're going to do wide stance belt squats today. Because wide stance belt squats are more adductors and glutes and hips. And that's where you're weak. And you're going to do hack squats because your quads are weak. but we're still doing the same reps and things like that. So these minor adjustments do matter at a certain level, but for the average person, they just don't. I was talking to Miss Olympia this morning about this exact conversation. It just doesn't matter. The science matters the higher up you go, but then also the higher up you go, and you take truly the top tier athletes, they're all anomalies anyway. So science doesn't necessarily apply to them anyway, because the science has never been done on them. So there's certain scientific fundamentals that apply to everybody. And those scientific fundamentals are things like force equals mass times acceleration. Doesn't matter who you are, your body structure, that will always be true. The farther a weight is away from the fulcrum, the more force it's going to take to overcome that. It's true for everybody. So these are the principles that I use to apply them to the individual athlete. But it's not like, oh, well, I saw on Instagram that this variation is going to get you jacked. It's like, how do you know that? Well, what research has been done on you? You're an elite level athlete. Well, I guess none. Well, then I guess doesn't fucking make sense, does it? So do what the fuck I told you the first time.
So basically what you're saying is you have to push the intensity and follow a good program.
Yeah, you have to have a smart program if you want to be the best in the world. But like even just if you want to get better, you got to be on some sort of smart program. RepHighPerformance.com. All my programs are absolutely fire. You're going to love them. Glute Gladiator, Bench Monster, Viking Warrior, Shield Maiden.
We have a surprise for you guys on the next coming up
Special
podcast.
guest. Special guest.
Special guests are coming, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Red 5 Tribe. Out.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.